Hi, everybody. My name is Jeremy Vargas from Counseling and Psychological Services, and today we're going to be kicking off a little thing that we're going to be doing all month. It is reading a storybook, a children's book, and then we're going to talk about what the implications are for the book for children and for adults, right? For those reading it to the children. So, before we begin, Autism Awareness Month, yes, we're wearing our blue to show our support, and you can do the same by changing your profile picture or posting a picture with blue and spreading the awareness that way, right? So, let's get into this book now. The book that we're going to be reading today is called The New Superhero, written by Chase Deneen, illustrated by Laura LaRue, okay? And this book, they wanted to make special thanks to their mom for helping them out with this book, along with their family and friends. The book is dedicated to kids everywhere who have autism. You all have superpowers. So let's jump right into this book. My name is Peter Jenkins, and my best friend is Jake Banks. We do everything together. We eat lunch together, we sit beside each other in class, but our favorite thing to do is hang out during recess and read our favorite comic books. We are the greatest fans of our favorite dynamic duo in the comic book series, The Adventures of Parker Panther and Wilbur the Warthog. When the recess bell rings, Jake and I run to the playground. We open up our comic book and transform into the superheroes we love. I am Parker Panther, and Jake is my courageous comrade, Wilbur the Warthog. Jake looks over at me and says, "Off to change the world, one act of kindness at a time." We run over to the monkey bars where we see Buster Bully trying to cut line. "Hold it right there, Buster," I say as I put my hands on my hip and I push out my chest. Buster says, "I do what I want." Wilbur gives a loud super snort to distract Buster. Oink, oink. Then I follow up with my powerful fake out punches. Bam, pow. Buster finally gives up and says, "I'll seek my revenge, Parker and Wilbur. One day you will be corrupted, just like me." We saved the day. Jake and I gave each other a high five. The next morning, our teacher, Miss Simmons, says, "Class, please welcome our new student, Alex." Then she asked Jake if he could be Alex's buddy to help him get settled in. As I look at Jake and Alex sitting together, something seems familiar to me, but I can't put my finger on it. When recess approaches, Jake tells me he is going to stay in and help Alex with his schoolwork. What? I think. Why would he do that? Alex acts strange. He hardly speaks and looks down at the ground all the time. Why does he flap his hands like that? What a weirdo. Why would Jake want to stay inside and help some odd kid instead of going to recess and saving the world with me, Parker Panther? The next day, the bell finally rings and I can hardly contain my excitement as I walk, trying hard not to take off running, to grab the comic out of my backpack. We line up, heading to the playground. Yet Jake is still with that goofy kid Alex. What is wrong with him? We're not allowed to talk in line, so I pretend to sneeze to get Jake's attention, but he doesn't even look my way. Achoo! I look up, and I guess I overacted my sneeze because not only did I get Jake's attention, I had the whole class's attention. Unfortunately, Miss Simmons heard me as well. She believes my acting so much that I get sent to the nurse's office to get checked out. Mrs. Simmons says I must get a clearance from the school nurse in order to participate in recess. Jake and the new weird kid, Alex, line up for recess as I get out of the line to see the school nurse. Well, shoot. I waited and waited eagerly when finally I see the nurse coming. With 15 minutes of recess left, I still have time to tell nurse that I'm fine, grab my comic book, out of the classroom and meet up with Jake. I start to tell the school nurse, Miss LaRue, that I am not sick, when all of a sudden I hear ring, ring. I sigh. Miss LaRue talks and talks and talks and talks on the phone as I sit and watch the clock go tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. While I wait for the nurse to finish her phone call, I look out the window, only to see Jake and Alex on the playground. What are they doing out there? I wonder. Why is Jake still hanging out with Alex at recess? He looks like he's having fun with him. Miss LaRue finally gets off the phone, but it's too late. Recess is over. I see my class lining up to come back inside from the playground. This just isn't my day. On the bus ride home, I get really mad at Alex. He came to my school and has taken over my best friend. I am ready to give up. Then smack! It hits me. I know. I will surprise Jake by coming in early before school. I need an excuse to tell my mom why I have to be there so early. Jake is always there early before school starts. I normally don't get to school until right before the bell rings because my mom is always running late. What can I tell my mom to make sure I get there early? I know. I will tell Mom that Mrs. Simmons asked if I could come in to help a new kid at school. My mom gets so excited that she tearfully says, I'm so proud of you. I feel a little guilty lying to her, but what choice do I have? I wake up extra early to make sure my mom will be ready to leave on time. I still have the comic book in my backpack. Jake and I have both been talking about this comic for weeks. He will be so surprised to see me this morning, especially when I show him what I brought. Mom turns onto the school drive on two wheels like a NASCAR driver at the Daytona 500. She tells me again she is so impressed that I am volunteering to help a new student. Why does that make me feel so bad inside? I walk into the gym, but where is Jake? I walk past the library and I see him. However, he is not alone. My heart sinks as I see Jake with Alex. They both have on headphones and are listening and reading a book together. Is that a comic book? I start to go in the library, but get stopped by Principal Swank. She tells me I should know better than to go in the library before school. All students are supposed to go straight into the gym in the morning unless special permission is given by the teacher. I give up. It turned out to be a really long day. I barely saw or talked to Jake all day because he was with Alex. When I arrived home, Mom asked me tons of questions about my day. She wants to know every detail of how I helped the new kid at school. I finally broke down and cried. I tell my mom the truth about everything, that I lost my best friend because he wants to spend all his time with this new weird kid, Alex. On Saturday morning, I just want to stay in bed and be mad at the world. But Mom makes me go to town to run some errands with her. I can't even mope and grumble if I want today. At least she is going to take me to my favorite restaurant. It is not only a restaurant, but it is also a comic book store. They have my favorite comic book characters and tons of information about them all. Jake and I used to love it. It has all the newest information about release dates of the comic books and movies. It wouldn't be as much fun without Jake, but I still want to go. I am in the Parker Panther room reading a comic when I hear another kid start talking about the comic in front of me. He knows all the right details that any good superhero fan should know. I look up and see Alex glancing at the comic saying all these facts. The weird new kid likes Parker Panther? I see Mom standing behind him. She introduces me to Alex. Then I see Jake, who says Alex is his fraternal twin brother. No wonder he looked familiar. Jake tells me Alex has autism. I don't know what that means, but I'm really happy to see my friend Jake. Jake explains to me that Alex has always been fascinated with comic books. Alex knows every detail of all comic books because that is his favorite thing in the whole world. I would have never known anything about all the comics you talked about if it weren't for Alex, said Jake. I just knew I wanted to be your friend, so I started asking Alex about all the comics you liked. I started learning everything I could about the superheroes from Alex so you would think I was cool enough to be your friend. Alex started school this year, so I have been helping him become more comfortable here, Jake explained. He has autism and sometimes gets scared at loud noises. He wears headphones, sometimes to help make things quieter for him. When he gets excited, he might flap his hands. He usually does that a lot when we come to this restaurant. Jake, Alex, and I spend the rest of lunch looking through and discussing every detail about my new vintage 1972 comic book. I realize I have not always been a very good friend to Jake, and not very fair to Alex either. On the way home, my mom explains to me what it means to have autism. So, it turns out that Alex is a really cool kid. He even knows more about comics than I do. Most importantly, he is the reason Jake and I are best friends. The next Monday, I have a big surprise for Jake and Alex. I tell them both I have something special to show them at recess. Jake, I think it's time to add a new superhero to our comic book club. I say. Jake looks at me a bit confused, but then I show him the 1984 comic book where Kelly Kangaroo joins forces with Parker Panther and Wilbur the Warthog to free the town from Buster Bully and his herd of no-good bandits. Jake gives me a big smile and we give each other a big high five. Alex doesn't look up or say anything, but I know he has to be happy too. Off to save the world, one act of kindness at a time. So, in that story, we found out about two boys who have a very strong friendship. They're best friends and they enjoy comic books together. One of the friends has a little brother, or I guess I should say, same age brother since they're fraternal twins. And the brother has autism. Now, what does that mean? We heard a little bit about certain elements in the story about things we assume autism looks like. The flapping hands, the invested interest in something, the fear or dislike of loud noises. Right? And these are the characteristics that many people think autism is like. But there are also other symptoms too, right? Other presentations, I should say. Not symptoms, presentation. Sometimes it could be picky eating. Maybe it's having a favorite place that makes you happy. Right? It doesn't always have to be these over the top behaviors. Jake taught his friend about what it is to have autism through example. So the friendship of Jake So the friendship of Jake, Peter, and Alex, we've learned that it evolves, right? So they interacted in a positive way. Jake felt like his friend was getting distant, and instead of just cutting off the friendship and giving up, he tried. He went to find something that they both can enjoy together. And then he was a little bit hurt that he wasn't able to share that experience with his best friend, Peter. Peter couldn't share that moment, that comic book with him. So what did he do? He talked to his mom. He found an adult that can help him and talk to an adult. And what did his mom do? His mom took him to the restaurant where Jake and Alex would be at. And they were able to share that bond, that thing that they liked a lot, which was comic books. So much so that Alex became a member of their comic book club. Kids, it's easy to let the weird kid go and say, that kid's weird, I don't want to play with them, or they're different. But a lot of times, we're only seeing a small piece of who they are. A tiny, tiny piece. And maybe it might be a little bit better to find out more about them instead of calling them names. So what Peter did, he used the words weird, he used the words different to describe Alex because he didn't know. But after he learned, he started using better words, nicer words. He was more understanding of Alex. And you guys can go back and read the story again, and you'll find out that Peter was doing a great job in getting his friends involved and getting them interacted. Even when he was in the line and he made that big sneeze and everyone saw him and had to go to the nurse's office, he still was trying to be a good friend. Never once did he say he wanted to exclude Alex. He was jealous, yeah, and that's okay, because that's his best friend. Jake was his best friend and is still his best friend. So sometimes things might not work out the way that we want, but our friends are there to stay. Peter was a good friend to Alex, who had autism. He was supportive and he knew to help Alex with the things that he was interested in. Peter didn't try to change Alex or tell him you're playing the game wrong or you're doing the thing wrong. No, he understood and he allowed Alex to be Alex because there was something different with Alex, but nothing was wrong with Alex. He was still a good friend, even though he looked down on the ground and he didn't react when Peter allowed him to join a comic book crew, right? Because Peter understood. So now it's up to the parents and to the kids to understand. What things can you do in this next upcoming week to show your support for those who have autism? What ways can you be inclusive and allow them to come and join your social circles? Maybe you know someone that enjoys playing video games and it's a specific type of video game and it's something that you've never tried before. Maybe give it a try and play with them. Maybe it's as easy as just talking with them and letting them know you're there, or wearing blue in this month of April. There are many ways that we can show our support, but it all starts from understanding. So what can you do to gain more understanding if your children come and ask you these questions? If you have these questions? Counseling and Psychological Services will be doing more videos about information for autism for this month. Let's Talk Belize Autism will also be doing different programs as well, and there'll be a lot more other resources available this month. So I want you guys to start with understanding and then move forward from there instead of just giving up, right? Because our kids learn from us. They learn what to do by watching us and how we act. So let's show them how to be understanding. You guys have a great Easter weekend, and I will see you next week for the next story. Bye.